Guys, I think we're actually on stage on Twitter now. I just saw the tweet and you can see my face and everybody. On stage on Twitter now. I just saw the tweet and you can see my face and everybody. Apparently not a big delay.
We are live, it seems. Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. So this is a series of talks that we're doing, chats with developers in the Arbitrum community that are building upon Stylus and projects that are building on here. This is the second in the series. We did our first one last week, and so you can find that also on YouTube with Renegade, so you can go back and watch that and see what they're doing. This time we have got Alex and Ivan from Fluidity who are working on Superposition. So we're going to be talking to them. I'll let them introduce themselves in just a minute here. So just to let you know, like I said, this is a series of showcases. I think we've got about 6 or so in total, looking at the developer side of things. So what about, what is Stylus from a developer standpoint, and how has it enabled developers to build things? We also have a user series that we'll be doing later on, looking at this from the end user perspective. And we have a pro series that's happening on the 24th of September. And that is a workshop series in which you can actually get a little more hands-on with things that are being developed. So look out for links for that on the Arbitrum X Twitter account. We've also just done a mainnet mint. So that kicked off on the 9th of September. And so that is the first NFT series that was minted using Stylus on top of Arbitrum. So the first NFT series written in Rust on Arbitrum that has been launched. And you can mint for free some NFTs on there, and they can then actually be claimed later on for some physical swag. So, like I said, we have Alex and Ivan here from Fluidity Labs. So great to have you folks on. If you'd like to just kick off with just a quick little introduction about yourselves, maybe starting with Alex.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's great to be on here. Everyone that knows me knows that I'm a bit of an Arbitrum Stylus shill now, I would say, just talking about it a lot and, getting teased. And that's a beautiful shirt, by the way. I had to give up my piece of the merch, unfortunately, to Ivan and the rest of the team. But yeah, I mean, my background is that I've been a developer for some time. I started when I was 15 or 16, just doing sysadmin work, and I kind of gravitated more towards working with startups, and just many years of like programming and working in different technical roles kind of led me to working with a company doing some stuff involving energy and Web3. And, then a couple of years after, started Fluidity with Shamir, and we just realized we wanted to take some of the ideas that we'd kind of developed and how we'd started to kind of gravitate towards the Arbitrum space and wanted to expand on it. And so we kicked off Superposition. So yeah, it's been a good ride so far.
Cool. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Lovely to be here. I'm very, very passionate about the Arbitrum ecosystem. We've been building over here for a couple of years now, if not a little bit longer, and everyone has been fantastic to us. So a little bit about myself. My background's in mechatronics engineering and computer science. I've been in the crypto space for a while, even when I was at university. That's actually how I met Alex. I started this blockchain Berkeley adjacent group in Adelaide called Adelaide Blockchain. We ran a few hackathons, a few meetings, a few educational series with the popular chains and I guess protocols at the time like Arc, OneChain. You might remember those names. Alex and I met, and I was about to start working at the British Aerospace, but then I forfeited that because I wanted to work at a Chainlink sub startup called Mycelium. I worked there for a couple of years, or for a year, I think. I had a fantastic time also doing Chainlink advocacy as part of the community. Since Shamir and Alex are very close to me, I decided to join Fluidity Labs super early on, and I've been doing product ever since. So I'm super excited to be building on Arbitrum and to expand on the Stylus ecosystem.
Cool. Did you say mechatronics at the start? You did university.
No,
Oh,
that's
awesome.
correct. Yeah, so double degree. Yeah,
That's quite a jump. Really interesting field. I actually looked at that myself way back when, like looking at how does the joint on an artificial knee work, for example, and things like that. It's an amazing field. So that's pretty coul. And a lot of good stuff's come out of blockchain Berkeley. It seems. I spoke there a number of years ago at the club, and there seems to be a lot of good stuff that's coming there. So that's cool.
Oh yeah, no, it's
great.
amazing,
Okay,
yeah.
well that's fantastic. So let's kind of look at start looking at like the protocol and the protocol sort of overview. Can you give us a sort of an overview about the protocol and sort of what is the actual goals? Well, actually, first of all, let's preface that with just give a little bit of explanation about. I've seen fluidity mentioned, superposition mentioned, long tail mentioned, I believe. Can you just give us just a quick synopsis of the three terms and the relation between them, and then a bit about the protocol overview and its goals?
For sure. I guess I can go, and then Alex can expand on it in case I miss anything. But basically, what we were trying to do with fluidity is really hacking DeFi incentives and like creating new type of utilitarian-based incentive mechanisms in a world that was filled with yield farming, like during the great 2020s and 2021s of the yam farms, right? So we were basically trying to build technology to advance DeFi adoption, in the sense that we wanted to reward users for actually spending their crypto or making transactions and utilizing different ecosystems and different protocols in the ecosystem. While we did start in Solana and Ethereum, we saw a fantastic product market fit on Arbitrum as we rolled out fluidity, and I guess it's updates and upgrades. So that's what we were trying to do with fluidity. It's a on-chain mechanism or a coin, a wrapper that actually rewards you every single time you make a transaction. And it actually has like a mechanism that splits it 80-20. So 80% to the actual person that executes the transaction, 20% to the counterparty. So building on fluidity, at some point in 2023, we found some really good PMF on Arbitrum. Arbitrum commuting was fantastic, from the foundation to OCL, as well as to the actual protocols in it. So we started learning a little bit about orbit chains. I actually watched a few presentations about orbit chains, about Stylus really early on. And Shamir, Alex, and I, we were actually getting some kebabs or something over here in Australia, and we were just thinking about what's the next step of like an incentivization and actually trying to reward users and protocols and developers alike for actually building and transacting and utilizing on-chain mechanisms, and the idea of like having shared primitives that exist in a state of superposition, right? Like the whole Schrodinger's cat thing came about. And we said, okay, what if we could create a blockchain, or an orbit chain in this case, that actually rewarded you for every single interaction that you did? And that's the beginning of superposition. I'll definitely let Alex get some airtime, explain a little bit more about superposition, and talk about long tail, which is one of superposition's many applications.
Yeah, sure. So basically, we're building an ecosystem. It's a DeFi native ecosystem. That's what we call it. We're building it as an orbit layer 3 on, obviously on Arbitrum, and we're also heavy users of Stylus because we want to take this fragmentation of liquidity. That's a challenge on existing chains where every dApp has its own internal concept of liquidity, and you build into that, and you have your own technology for that. And we wanted to build a sort of like a shared sort of like view of all of the liquidity that's available on the chain in the form of an order book. So it's a DeFi native chain that sort of rewards you to use it, this big ecosystem. And one of the things that we're building is something called Longtail, and that's the first Stylus concentrated liquidity AMM. So it's an AMM built using Stylus. It's orders of magnitude cheaper than everywhere else. And it's also a part of the technology that we use for this order book and shared liquidity architecture that we're building and expanding on. If that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so just to clarify for people, so superposition is a blockchain, is a layer 3 blockchain off of Arbitrum 1, I presume, which is so Orbit, using our Arbitrum Orbit, which is technology that allows you to create your own layer 2 or layer 3 blockchains. So this is great. So this is, you created your own chain dedicated to DeFi, and you're using Stylus, which allows you to write smart contracts in Rust a lot more efficiently
Mm-hmm.
on top of that as well. So that's, you're kind
Mm-hmm.
of using two of the big sort of technology pushes that we've come out with, which is fantastic to see, right? It's great
Mm-hmm.
to it's one thing for us to kind of talk about these things and for people at the foundation and OCL to be building these things, but it's great to actually talk to people that are building upon them
Mm-hmm.
and actually using them.
That's
So
correct.
talking about Stylus then, why Stylus? How are you leveraging Stylus within your protocol? And why did you come to Stylus? Did Stylus lead you to Arbitrum? Did Arbitrum lead you to Stylus? What was the the sort of reasoning?
Well, I think as a team, we've always had a culture of risk taking and exploring different ideas that are kind of like a little bit on the fringe. And I would say that as a team that we're very proud to actually be one of the earliest users of Stylus. The moment it dropped, we were already members of the Arbitrum ecosystem. The moment it became available, we jumped on that thing. Even before it had actually been developed, the moment the idea came out, we went for it. We jumped onto it. And that's because, we've been builders for so long. We've seen all of the flaws with the existing development space and the existing development cycle of working on an EVM in the normal instance, right? And what we wanted to do was we wanted to build something that wanted to show how expressive and safe and how affordable it is to use Stylus, because the way that you guys have designed this and the way that you've designed Stylus is that it's orders of magnitude cheaper than Solidity. It's orders of magnitude safer than Solidity because you have this existing development ecosystem of technologies that you can tap into to make it safer. And we really just wanted to try and, frankly, build new cool stuff. So we were just like, yeah, I mean, this sounds like fun. I mean, hey, we like working with Rust. I mean, that's one thing you can do with Stylus is you can use Rust to write your EVM, smart contracts with no loss in composability. And yeah, I mean, it's just been a good ride so far,
Cool.
Yeah, and
that's a point that Renegade brought up last week as well. Oh, sorry, Ivan. That's a point that Renegade brought up last week was regards to kind of safety as well. Was that, of course, you've got a lot of the Rust code that has either already been audited or has been at least battle tested and can be used and tested kind of completely outside of the blockchain ecosystem. And unit tested on its own and that kind of stuff, which is a really kind of sort of a novel compared to Solidity, sort of novel thing. So sorry, Ivan, you were just about to say?
No, just gonna build on top of that answer that Alex said, which is we were building on Arbitrum, even prior to Stylus, and we at least personally, I've been seeing the Off-Chain Labs team, really shilling Arbitrum for a while, ever since the what's it called, the Ed Felton or Steve presentation with Sergey on the Chainlink days, and I've definitely seen the I guess the community grow, and we've always been experimental, as Alex said, but at least over the last 2 years, we haven't seen any other chain outside of some non-EVM chains, but in general, any L2 that has had as big of a liquidity as well as I guess community build, as well as constantly kind of pushing the envelope when it comes to edge technology. Whether it be the latest on Bold or Layer Leap or Stylus, it's something that we're super happy and super keen to always continue to sort of expand on our toolkit as well. So outside of just wanting to try out Stylus, we're definitely in it for the culture and also in it to be part of this growth that we've seen over the last couple of years. Yeah,
in it for the culture. That's a good phrase. I like that. There certainly is within the Arbitrum ecosystem. There's so many great people building great stuff. It's been I've only been part of the ecosystem now for about 4 months, but going along to events and talking to people has been a lot of fantastic stuff. So it's great to see people here. So that's cool. Hi, Derek. Yeah, and you mentioned Solana at the start as well. Did that, have any sort of bearing on this? Because Solana's smart contracts are in Rust as well, right? So was there anything that sort of came over from there in terms of your experience?
Yeah, I would say so. With the team that we've been developing with, we've just had so much experience working with the Rust ecosystem. We felt pretty confident with it. We also enjoyed it from from a development, enjoyment point of view. That's something that's very big for us. And You know, I guess when we realized that, you know, we could obviously use Rust with working in the EVM, but with none of the pain points of Solana, like, you know, with Solana, you have to think a lot about, like, you know, accounts you're bringing in and knowing where they are and doing work to derive them. And then also stuff, you know, just like where you can't necessarily simulate what you've written easily. We felt like marrying that development experience with the seamless experience of working with the EVM, you know, we were just super excited about it. So it was a big part of our decision, I would say.
And were there like other alternatives considered? You know, was there anything else you looked at as well before you kind of went in with Stylus?
I guess what's it called? I think, you know, obviously as we're deploying, you know, new technologies, we definitely kind of look around, whether it be super chains or even, you know, this is a little bit earlier in terms of like our ideology for superposition. Also looking at what eventually right now would become the extension chains, right, to Solana. But I think that after just working with the Arbitrum Foundation ever since the Fluidity days, and just like, you know, generally listening to those presentations that I said about the Orbit chain, and just kind of like, you know, talking to Alex about it, we knew that we wanted to be, you know, pretty early on the Stylus stack, on the Orbit stack as well. So, you know, at that point in time, the multi-VM and the Orbit cluster kind of like identity and ideology started coming into the team. I think that there was no competition at that point in time. Like, you know, as soon as we started really diving in deep, we're like, okay, we're full in on the Arbitrum ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a pretty good combination. I think the pair of them joined together. So I can see a lot of teams like using the combination of Stylus and Orbit together. I think is really powerful. So how's your developer experience been so far, building on top of Stylus? How's that been going?
Actually, it's been really good. I mean, you know, an element of weakness, I would say, with Stylus has actually become a strength for us. You know, we enjoy testing all of our code in an environment that's actually not native to the EVM, and just kind of like doing little bits of unit testing in ways that actually wouldn't have been feasible easily in the with Solidity. Like, for example, you know, we're aggressive users of something called a hypothesis testing, which is actually a form of testing where you can do all sorts of things, including doing binary search across your inputs that you have for like a specific function or a, you know, like a contract interaction. And what we've actually done is we've actually employed that form of testing end to end across the contract that we've actually built, and also a contract that we've actually got coming out pretty soon, which is something that's pretty neat. And yeah, we're just really enjoying it, frankly. I mean, it's so much fun. You know, we developing quickly. You know, we get all of those tools that we leveraged in the Rust ecosystem, like, you know, macros, for example, is a pretty big thing. And yeah, it's been good. We're very optimistic. You know, I would say something. I'll put on my hat here a little bit, and Derek might be a little bit surprised as he hears this. You know, let's compare the experience of working on the EVM with working with Sui, for example, on Solana. Okay. You know, with Sui, you go to their Explorer and you type up the name of a protocol, and it will come up with the application that you want to use. And also it will break down how it was used, the function signature. You know, it'll actually decode the events for you in some cases. And, you know, I was just talking about this before with Ivan, but, you know, I mean, because of the zero cost abstractions that Stylus gives you, where you can cache all sorts of storage accesses that you do, you can cache operations that you do, for example, cheaply and, you know, seamlessly. I'm just excited about Stylus because imagine pulling down a library called like the compound library or something. It checks the chain ID that you're on as you import it into your contract, knows the address of everything that you want to access, does offline derivation of the addresses of like polls, for example, without even chatting with the contract, all in a zero cost abstraction. That's just something that we're very sort of like excited about. I'm sorry, I know I've gone off the track a little bit there with the question about our experience, but I wanted to say this at least once.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear. I mean, and this is the whole point of this series, is right. It's to get things here, you know, find out about what it is, you know, directly from the teams that are building, what it is they're finding interesting, so that we can get that feedback. So Off-Chain Labs can get that feedback as well in terms of what they're building, and in terms of other teams that might want to build on it, you know, finding out where the strengths and the weaknesses are. right? You know, some people have mentioned things like contract size, and I know I think that's something that you've had issues with as well. Is that you limited contract size still?
Would you like to hear our solution for that? I think you'll find it interesting.
Definitely go for it.
So I think this is something that we'll actually expand on, how to reduce your contract size. This is actually deceptively not that complicated to actually solve in terms of this is something that when you get embedded in the Stylus ecosystem and you hear people talking about contract size restriction, you think this is a big issue. We created a proxy contract that actually did dispatch based on the function selector. So we actually built a far more gas efficient dispatch approach into our contract, and we have like 8 or something different contract, facets. I say that with, with quotes because it's not strictly a diamond contract. And, it's actually more call data efficient, as well as it's actually easy to upgrade, because at any point we actually haven't had to add that dispatch where it actually goes and tries to figure out where something lives. Instead, it actually looks at a byte in the selector to figure out where to go into. So we'll write a blog post about this. So if you're a Stylus developer and you're having trouble with your contract size, hey, I'm going to give you a couple of tips. You might like it, you might not.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely keep an eye out for that, and that'll be a good read, because again, this kind of echoes what you said earlier about sort of taking some of the, I guess, sort of constraints that you might have and using them to your advantage. In this case, you've kind of worked out an architecture for breaking up, and there's certain benefits to that as well in the approach. And again, you mentioned things like sort of unit testing and your hypothesis testing and things like that. That's really good, because I mean, one of the things I suddenly realized last week that I hadn't really kind of appreciated up until now was that, of course, because Rust is a general language as opposed to Solidity, which is just a smart contract language. People are using it outside. So, if you have a team that has both some sort of front end stuff and back end stuff, you can be writing stuff both on chain and off chain in the same language.
Exactly.
And that's very important when you're doing things like any kind of like codex or encryption or decryption, in which, really the implementation matters. And that's where you can get some sort of strange edge cases if you have an encryption routine in one language that you're trying to decode in another language, or decrypt in another language, and you start have to marshal arguments in different ways and data formats and all this kind of stuff. We saw the same thing with JavaScript and Node.js, right? JavaScript, whilst a language that solved a problem, shall we say, in the browser, it was then adopted server side, and whilst in and of itself wasn't a particularly great language, it allowed teams to write both backend in Node.js and front end in the browser. Now with Rust, you've got a far more capable language. I'm going to be opinionated about it. Far more capable than something like JavaScript, and has a lot of features for smart contracts in terms of security, type awareness, all that kind of stuff that is very useful. That now you can do as well, front end and back end, off chain, on chain, development in Rust, and that's that is really really cool.
That's so fantastic.
what is your like development workflow look like with Stylus then?
Me personally,
or the team in general?
All right.
Use or IDs or
my God, you've asked the wrong guy for this, because this is going to sound deeply psychotic, okay? Because Ivan knows this, but I belong to a minority of people. I use a program called Acme, which is it's something from an operating system that came out after Unix by a research institute named Plan 9. It's actually a window manager that actually is a gigantic text editor. I've been using it for the last 5 or 6 years. I've written thousands of programs for it. I've got programs that do symbolic testing of specific code paths. I've got programs that have a fake file system for accessing Ethereum state on chain. I've got programs that do things like security, key management, address management. I got stuff. I could show you if you want. It's all text. It's straight text. It's I've even got
don't get them started.
I got a 40% keyboard with Comac on it. I got like a keyboard, programs written on it that do all sorts of stuff. This is like true. If you see photos of guys working with this text editor, they don't know how far you can take this. Imagine 5 or 6 panes full of Rust code. I've got one monitor. It's this big, right? I can open 30 files and be editing them at once and have them accessing Rust and be putting information between the two. You know, I do this regularly. I have programs that decode call data and visualize it in a way where you can actually right-click on it and will actually expand on it. It's truly crazy stuff. The rest of my team, we have a pretty small team. They're all different. We got one guy using Vim the whole way down, NeoVim, with a bunch of different different language server stuff. You know, we used to have a couple of people on the team. We have one guy using like a weird Emacs kind of thing. And then, yeah, I think I have developers using Visual Studio Code. But yeah, I mean, you could, you know, if anyone's ever curious about this, you can look at our repo, long.so, and actually I unplugged my keyboard so that I can, you know, see this microphone. But oh, I can't put it in the chat because no one will see. Look us up, fluidity-money/long.so. That's the repository for Longtail. That's actually the, you can see all of our development practices there. Some of them, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I heard your mechanical keyboard just before we went live tapping away, so so the answer doesn't surprise me. I got enough gray hairs in my beard to almost remember Plan 9 from the start. It's pretty revolutionary. One of those great ideas that sort of slightly fell by the wayside in history, of a great idea that maybe was slightly ahead of its time. But I didn't actually realize that Acme was part of Plan 9. Okay, that's where it came from. So that's cool. Okay, is there a particular sort of like part of your protocol that has benefited specifically from Stylus? Do you reckon?
I would 100% say so. You know, Ivan knows about this. We're building a pretty broad ecosystem here. You know, obviously we've got our testing suite, which is so easy. With Solidity, you know, you might have to use tools like Echidna, for example, if you want to do like a heavier amount of testing on a contract. We can easily bring in a macro and actually just test it that way. We've actually got something coming out that Derek is also unfamiliar with. It's a new prediction market built on some research we dumpster dived from the 2000s, where there was a corporate finance craze on using prediction markets internal to organizations. And this is something that we've done that is only possible with Stylus. We've actually taken a custom float storage type. Okay, so we've taken a crate from the Rust ecosystem that's never been used in the blockchain space before. And we've actually built a custom storage backend for it that maps actually directly to EVM native words. Okay, so this is something that we've really benefited from with Stylus. It's something that we really appreciate.
That's really cool to hear. Yeah, because there's certain things that are just would be impossible to do in Solidity, right? Not, I mean, in some cases, not even just from a gas perspective, but just the language is just, you know, you'd be fighting against it to actually implement that. So that's great, because one of the areas I did think about, you know, early on was to do with sort of floating point stuff. And that's interesting. You've created your own sort of storage mechanism to be able to deal with that. That's it's really cool.
Hey, Matt, you want to know something crazy? Oh, sorry, Ivan. I'll just say this so I can get it off my chest. So I can forgive myself later. I'm going to tell you something, okay? 2 words, like 3 words, actually. It was easy, okay? It was so easy, okay, guys? You want to store a JPEG on the blockchain with like a structure or something? Hey, I got you. This is nothing, okay? You want to do that? No problem. Stylus?
It was easy. I should get that added underneath. It was Stylus. It was easy. I'll get that sort of on the bottom of the
Exactly.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I definitely wanted to say that, like, you know, we definitely don't want to compromise on the story for the gas efficiency as well. I mean, on the V3 AMM that we built, like this long tail, on our extensive testing, and you know, we're talking about extensive testing, right? We've seen that it's at least 4 times, if not 5 times, cheaper than any other AMM on the Arbitrum ecosystem. Oh, wow. And right now we're, you know, so it's, you know, it's fantastic. Also, you know, a lot more memory efficient, and we're doing a little bit of research on the side. Obviously, we have a lot on our plate, but we're eventually going to be trying to adapt this onto an aggregator type of model, and you know, potentially making it the cheapest AMM period on the EVM ecosystem. So, you know, it's definitely going to be evolving over steps, but right now we're pretty proud with what we were able to do over the last few months.
Yeah, and that's something that directly translates into, you know, to an end user, right? I mean, it's kind of like if you can do the compute that you need to do cheaper and more efficiently by using Solidity, then, you know, that is effectively either more profit for your team or cheaper fees for your customer, or probably, you know, some element of both, right?
Exactly.
You know, it allows you to it's going to be a competitive advantage in the marketplace, right? Like you've said, it's if it's 4 or 5 times cheaper than the next nearest AMM. Well, if I have a choice as to which AMM I'm going to go for, then I'm going to go for the one with lower fee.
No, of course, and yeah, I guess like it really fits.
Right, you're going to see people no doubt building other sort of algorithms effectively on top of that, because it's now going to be cheap enough to do so, right? You're not going to want to be able to keep moving position if every time you try and move position, or add or retract liquidity or do arbitrage or whatever it might be, that you've got a cost, that's going to overweigh what it is you're trying to do, right? Whereas if you've got a low enough cost on there, then these additional strategies are now going to start to become, feasible. So that's a direct benefit to the end user. So that is awesome. Okay. Are there any specific like resources that you've found useful? Any specific tutorials or libraries or anything that your team's been using?
We're kind of Spartan with this, I would say. What we've done is we've done this all in-house. We haven't referred to any specific libraries or tutorials, except for the Hello World and the official documentation. We got to this point by reading the library code, doing research on from what we could find that, obviously you guys have published. But for anybody coming in, I would encourage you to check out Open Zeppelin's library that they've just built. They've built this thing. It seems fantastic. Frankly, we're not big users of it. I haven't taken the time to pick it up yet, but I'd imagine that we will be. They've also really expanded on what's possible with testing by really simplifying it in a lot of places where it was difficult for us. And I don't mean to toot my own horn here, so just, give me like a zap later on if I did the wrong thing here. But I've been trying to publish a newsletter just to try to, help people, understand more about the ecosystem. And that's something called Stylus Saturdays. And, obviously, that's something that we're really we want to work on and we want to help people out with. And I just think just keep your, your eyes to the ground. And also, if you can, join the Telegram group. As a Telegram group, and it's filled with lots of people who are asking questions, so you won't feel alone if you're on your own. And Matt, I'd imagine you're going to be putting out some tutorial series or something in the future, right? For this.
Yeah, we will be. So we've got as you mentioned, we've got the docs. If you go to docs.arbitrum.io, there's a section there on Stylus. There's a how-to there. There's also a site, Stylus by example, as well, which echoes the Solidity by example. So stylus-by-example.org. People can go there. There's some stuff there. I'm going to be doing some stuff. I'm hoping to jump on a live stream and do a little bit of coding soon for some examples, just to kind of show what's it like getting into it. I'm not specifically a Rust developer. I can sort of read Rust, but my main background is Python. But I've done C-based languages in the past, and so I want to get my hands dirty with some Rust and start going through myself, and so we'll do some tutorials there. But also mention there's the Stylus by there's the Pro Series workshops that we'll be doing that will be coming up, so people can keep an eye out for them if they want to kind of get their hands really dirty with stuff and kind of go through a workshop. That's going to be led by some of our colleagues over at Off-Chain Labs are going to be leading that, so it's going to be cool there. So okay, great. In terms of kind of next steps, how do you see Stylus affecting the sort of broader DeFi ecosystem? I think you've covered a little bit about this, about costs and things. But is there anything else kind of you want to add in there?
Yeah, actually, I want you guys to imagine a world with me. Imagine a world where you just download a crate for what you want to do. It checks the type of backend you're using. It figures out if you're running it in in a local environment, like an x86-64 environment, or on your browser or whatever. It does these things. It figures out the backend, and then you go to do something complicated, like you want to find out how much money you have in your account. You want to maybe make like a swap or something. And it actually does it for you. You don't have to worry about the internals. But then imagine that world where you also bring that into your smart contract, and it realizes that it's in a smart contract environment. I think with Stylus, we've got this opportunity to completely eliminate the distance, eliminate the code reuse, just imagine, you know, in Solana, you want to use the Metaplex library, right? Which is a library for NFTs, for example, right? You pull it down, it knows where everything lives. It's capable of figuring out where addresses are for things. Imagine that kind of Ethereum native experience on Arbitrum, where you don't have to know anything. You can literally, like in 3-4 lines, you can deploy a contract that does something so simple, and you've got the expressiveness and the safety of Rust. That's what I'm excited about. Ivan is really plugged into this. He knows what I'm talking about. That is where I sort of see this thing going. And I think it might take us a while to get there, but I'm very, very excited about it.
And I'm also particularly excited if this potentially is in the roadmap. I was talking to a few folks from Off-Chain Labs or someone in the conference in Korea Blockchain Week recently. But it'd be really cool if maybe there was some sort of like transpiler, some sort of compiler that could compile down some move bytecode onto WebAssembly. Potentially kind of making Stylus also kind of support the up and coming hype of the move ecosystem, right? So maybe not only 150 million developers, maybe you could sort of expand that to a couple more million. But I definitely see Stylus being the future, and I definitely think that Arbitrum leading the multi-VM path. It's very on brand, and we're here for the future.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, because Stylus is WASM based and Rust is the first sort of higher level language that we targeted. Because it has a lot of obvious benefits and synergies and the ecosystem and everything to compile down to WASM to run on Stylus. But there's nothing stopping you technically from using C, C++. Potentially, looking at other languages. I mean, you mentioned things like Move. It would be great to be able to have something that can effectively help transpile, port, whatever, some of this stuff over from, say, the Move ecosystem or even the Solana ecosystem. Or I mean, Stellar uses Rust as well. I mean, some of these other blockchain ecosystems that are using Rust, it would be great to be able to do that kind of thing. And Derek's here. He's in a noisy cafe, so I'm not sure if he's going to be speaking at all. But he's here. He's the product manager from OCL, so he's going to be listening here for ideas and any kind of suggestions you've got about Stylus. But I mean, the great thing being is, yes, it's new. It's just launched a week ago, but the fact is, we already have teams. You're a great example of it that are building upon it. There's everything you need there to build upon it now, and that's only going to get better, right? These higher level tools to help you are going to be coming along, and development environments and all of this kind of stuff, and support from additional tools. That's all going to come around. I was chatting to Remix. Wouldn't it be great if Remix supported it? I don't know if that's going to be possible or whether that be in their roadmap, but that would be a great thing to see, right? I mean, developers starting off and doing stuff like that. There's I think there's a lot of cool stuff that's potentially going to be coming out, which is really exciting. So that's cool. Okay. How can users try out Superposition?
That's a very good question. So the most obvious answer would just be to either go on our Twitter, Superposition SO, or our website, superposition.so. Familiarize yourself.
There's another Superposition out there, so be aware. So Superposition is these guys. Yes, make sure.
Right. Superposition Orbit Chain, the one with the cat. So if you see a little cat logo, that's us. You can join our Discord. We're constantly running activities. Our community manager and BD is fantastic, always having the Catter Days, which used to be on Saturdays, but then we realized that we were working 6 days a week, so we moved it, a day before. We constantly have new features and new developments that are coming out, supporting new ecosystems as well, trying to, I guess, support people that are on Ethereum, kind of like bridging them into Arbitrum and potentially into Superposition. Recently, we are running a little bit of a low-key grants program where we had our first grantee, which is non-on-house. We're actually going to be having an AMA today with them, not to shield too much, but we definitely want to support different ecosystems and communities to kind of try out the Arbitrum, if not try out Superposition as well, since we have a parent hub here, and you can definitely check us out on our weekly calls on Discord, as well as on Twitter for all that's new. We have a little bit of a dApps hub going on, so just superposition.so, enter the testnet, and try out things from per.stream, which is a way for you to actually donate on-chain fake currency, a testnet currency that gets reflected on the real world. Recently, actually, I got a call from RSPCA South Australia to go like, oh, why are you got so many donations, but why are they sort of coming in streams? And it's just the way that we kind of donated because of our community contribution. No, we're really trying to get on-chain adoption from the Web2 crowd, experiment around, support developers with our on-chain mechanisms, whether it be our shared utility and liquidity, rewarding mechanisms, or whether it be with actual developer support for Stylus. So we're really in it for the new wave of Web3, and we're definitely very excited to continue to deploy new things using Stylus. And maybe you can have a little bit of an alpha time with Alex on a prediction market.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I was just about to say, is there anything else you want to add in or mention? And this sounds like the perfect opportunity. So come on then, drop some alpha, Alex.
Sure. So what we've done is we've taken something that we've, as I've said, we found it from, many years ago. We've realized it hasn't been implemented. You can kind of think about it like we're building the first AMM compared to like Binance, for example, where you've got a very capital inefficient structure, which is very order book heavy. And we're actually taking that and we realize that we can innovate on it to build something super capital efficient, regardless whether you're actually trading, whether you're just participating, you're holding. We've also built something which eliminates the need for market makers, but it's as flexible as actually having something with like an order book, for example. So this is something Derek actually observed me ideate randomly because I was looking for something to write about in the blog. And then we realized there were legs to the idea and we actually sprinted on it and implemented the contract. And it's actually just sitting there on my computer up in our, code management and coming out very soon. We've actually just taken a poll of a few of our users in the Superposition community as well as the Fluidity community. And they're going to get early access to actually betting on, I would say the election is probably something that we'll look at doing.
Oh, wow. Cool. That's interesting. That's cool to hear. Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you both for joining us here and chatting. It sounds like it's everything's going really well. So it's great to hear your experiences building upon Stylus and how that's helped you with your with your project and your protocol. And so yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And check these guys out, like I said, on X, on Twitter, Superposition SO, and they've got an AMA coming up later today as well that they're doing. So yeah, that'll be great. And also, there's something here. Superposition's got like a audit competition and stuff, and mainnet timeline. Do you want to just quickly mention that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I can jump on that. Okay, all right. So we're actually in the final days, I think, of actually doing a code arena competition. As far as I'm aware, obviously with the first project to do a code arena audit for Stylus. So, if you're a security researcher, you're looking to get your hands on Longtail, I would invite you to go Code Arena and have a look. You should see Superposition on the left there. And, as Ivan said, we're actually later this month actually taking things to mainnet. So very exciting. We're super excited.
That'll be great. That'll be fantastic to look out for. So great. Brilliant. Okay. Well, thanks a lot all for tuning in and seeing this. And thanks, Alex, Ivan, for coming on and talking about your experiences.
Thanks so much, Matt. Thank you so much, Derek.
Thanks. Bye all.
A lot of fun, guys. Goodbye.